Hello, everyone. This is Jason Tonioli. I'm here with Amazing Vacations, and I have Walter Pate, who is with me, and I have Rafa Gallo with Rios Tropicales Lodge, who's calling in from Miami. Rafa, you were just telling us that you were on the mend and things are getting better. You've been there dealing with cancer. That sounds like, right?
Oh yeah, I got a big class 6 rapid in January. I got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and here I am in Miami doing chemotherapy, and I got stuck with COVID. So I have been here in Miami, stuck in my apartment with my wife and my son, taking care of me, and on my way back to Costa Rica July 8th. So,
Excellent.
yep,
Well,
great
you
being here.
you look like you're weathering the Class 6 Rapid pretty well and coming out. That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So just to get started, a lot of people know Rafa. And Rafa, thank you so much for letting us kind of interview you. This is great. Walter, do you want to do a quick introduction for those who may not know about Rafa and where his background, maybe?
Wow. Well, thank you, Rafa, for share this time with us. And what an honor! What an honor to be talking to you and how to introduce you. I mean, one of the pioneers of the rafting, kayaker. Oh my gosh, conservationism, environmental, uh, helping all around the world to the in the industry, the sport, helping kids. I mean, there is a lot of things, and I can keep talking. So thank you, Rafa, for everything you have done so far, right? And then I know we still have Rafa for a while, huh? So super excited about this.
Awesome. And Rafa, maybe tell us a little. I mean, for somebody who's never met you or doesn't know a lot about you, how would you introduce yourself to them? I guess.
Oh boy. Hello, and no, just an honor to be in this program next to the other Caballeros del Rio, Miti and Sabanera and Ciao. I mean, they're the real Caballeros. They work on the river still every day. I really don't. I grew up in El Salvador, had the opportunity to go to University of Tennessee in 1978. I left El Salvador because of political problems. My family was able to send me to Tennessee, and that's where I learned to run rivers. And I got a great bunch of friends. We just did our 40-year reunion, went down the main salmon, got to row a dory, which is something I hadn't rowed or paddled in my life, and it was great. It was class 3 and 4. But anyway, got to go to Tennessee and then ended up meeting Michael Kay in when I was working as a raft guide in southeast United States. There was a party. There was a end of the season party at Southeastern Expeditions on the Chattooga River, and we're partying. And somebody said, "Hey, that's a guy from Costa Rica. He's got a company down there." And I said, "Oh, really?" And he was actually a guy that I knew that had worked for him. And I said, "Whoa, I grew up in El Salvador. I never really thought about Costa Rica." And so, yeah, let me introduce you to him. So I went and met him, and Michael, everybody that knows him, he at that time he was big and fat and ugly, and he had this. He was an ugly kind of guy. I know that everybody understands what I'm saying, but ugly in a physical way in that time. But it was just funny because he didn't look like a river guide or a river person, but he had thick glasses, and he was just different. Some people said that he looked like Jerry Lewis. Uh, but anyway, I met him and he talked about Costa Rica, and I said, "Ah, wow, great." So I just party was doing good and it was dancing and stuff. So I kind of took his notes and he wrote my name and we talked a little bit and didn't think much about it. And in 1983, I had the opportunity as working as an engineer. I got the opportunity to go down the Grand Canyon, a permit that we had applied for in 1978. And that was one of those forks in your life where you say, well, here I am working as an engineer, being a river guide, and we got this permit to go on the. I'm not just gonna go on the Grand Canyon for 18 days. I want to just stay out there out west and running rivers. So decided to quit my job, go on the Grand Canyon, run rivers all over United States and Canada with a couple friends. And then getting to LA, and my two friends that I had paddled the Grand Canyon with, and we've been on the university, they say, "Hey, we're going to New Zealand." Oh yeah, yeah. Bob Hoffman just started a company on the Shotover River in New Zealand, so we're going down there to work for him. I said, "Oh man, I don't have enough money to go to New Zealand," and we're driving my car, my VW van. So here I'm stuck in LA, having to sell my van, no money to go to New Zealand, and my parents had just moved to Florida. They had just left El Salvador to move to Florida. So I drove cross country from LA to Orlando. It went and visited my parents, worked a little for them. My father gave me $700 for the work I did, and that's the money I used to go to Costa Rica in 1983.
And so that was your first time going to Costa Rica then.
That was my first time going to Costa Rica. My friend Fernando, who I'm going to talk about later, was getting married in I guess January '84. So I went to Costa Rica, and the first river I paddled was the Pacuare. Actually, first I went on the Reventazón in Tucurrique, but then Pacuare. And when I went on Pacuare, I was like, whoa, what is this? I mean, I had just come back from Grand Canyon, Middle Fork of the Salmon, Snake, Nahatlatch, and the rivers, that's Kaikomish in Washington. And we get to the Pacuare, and there's warm water and lush vegetation and toucans, and I go like, whoa, this is it. So I fell in love with the rivers and with the women in Costa Rica. What can I tell you?
Awesome. So, and when you were down there, was kayaking kind of a new thing, or how was it very developed with the Whitewater community or the rafting companies down there?
Well, I brought my kayak. It was a fiberglass slipper. We used to build our own kayaks. There were no kayaks. It was plastic boats. There was one holoform. A holoform was a plastic kayak, and Michael Kay had one. And it was a big kayak with very heavy plastic. So I had my slipper. So I was cruising. I had the only kayak, the second kayak in Costa Rica. And Fernando Castañeda and Osvaldo Trejos had just returned from California, and they were my first. I was the operations manager, so they were my first guides. Michael Kay had started in 1978, and he had started pretty much with international guides. I mean, there was no Costa Rica guides in 78, 79, 80, 81. So I guess 82, 83, he sent Fernando and Osvaldo to California, and they were my first guides. And so we became pretty good friends, even though I was their boss and they didn't like me. And then Mario Bonilla, he came as I came into Costa Rica, and he was my first roommate. So
Mario Bonilla.
we had some fun. So in 83, 84, I worked for Michael. 83 and 83, 84. I only worked for him for about 8 months. 84, yeah. I can't remember what happened, but he didn't want to open tourism for Costa Ricans. And I saw so much potential. I said, Michael, the Costa Ricans got to see these rivers. And he said, no, Costa Ricans don't have dollars. And I go, oh man, that's not right. And then there were also kayakers coming down, and kayakers didn't have any money. They just wanted to bum the trip. And so I would kind of sneak in a kayaker here and there. And he didn't like that. So I only worked for him for about 8 months. And then I decided to stay in Costa Rica. And I didn't know really what to do. I didn't want to start another rafting company because Michael was pretty difficult to go head to head.
Mm-hmm.
So I started building wood paddles. And that didn't work that well. I mean, wood in Costa Rica was pretty heavy. I was playing with the wrong woods. And so this family, Olsenbach from Capri's, they wanted me to teach their kids to kayak. So that kept me in Costa Rica another couple months giving lessons to these kids. They had these old fiberglass kayaks as well from Germany. And so I think I taught him, or I had gotten another kayak by then. But anyway, that's how I kind of stayed and started Rios Tropicales in 1985. And my first clients were from Nantahala Outdoor Center. And the trade-off was that they would bring, I think it was a group of about 10 or 12. They would bring 12 dancers. And so they would pay me with kayaks and money. And so my first trip in October 1985 was with 12 dancers, that was it. The dancer was it. So that was the first real kayaks, unless somebody had brought a dancer before, but maybe not. Those were the first real kayaks in Costa Rica, and there were only 4 or 5 kayakers.
So when you brought those kayaks in, did you then become the guy that started teaching everybody how to kayak with the real kayaks then?
Pretty much, and then something really neat happened from the Nantahala Outdoor Center. Ken Ford, he was one of the instructors there. Those guys were leaders in developing racing and commercial rafting in the Southeast. And Ken Ford had to find another country other than Canada and the United States to have a kayak federation, to be representatives of the ICF, the International Canoe Federation. So he knew me. So he came to Costa Rica and he said, Rafa, we need one more federation in Latin America, in Pan America, so that we can hold flatwater kayaking in South Bend, Indiana in 1986. So I went ahead and started Asociación de Piragüismo, which was the first representative of the ICF in Costa Rica, and sent Fernando Castañeda and Alejo Pacheco and Patricia Olsenbach. They went and represented Costa Rica in the flatwater event in South Bend. And that's pretty much how we got involved in competitive kayaking. Then Ken Ford told me about kayak racing, and I figured, hey, if I go to a race, people are going to ask about Costa Rica, and I'm going to talk about the rivers. And so what a great opportunity. So in 1988 or 87, they invited me to the Gold River in Canada to compete. So here I am. I just decided to go compete for Costa Rica. I'm the representative of ICF. There's only Fernando Castañeda and Osvaldo kayaking. So there was, and then they're working for my competitor who I just broke a monopoly. So there was not a lot of communication there. And so I went off to the Gold River. I'd never done slalom before in my life. And so this guy loaned me a slalom kayak. He was a lot shorter than I. So when I went inside the kayak, my feet were like really cramped. I was really uncomfortable, and boy, I suffered so much. And then I had to paddle through these gates down this river that was cold in Canada, and it was fast and technical. I made it. I didn't break the boat, and I didn't flip, and I didn't break my head. And I started getting into the slalom movement, where I ended up in 1988 on the Savage River, the pre-worlds. And 1989 was the first World Championship that we brought a Costa Rica team. So I brought Alejo Pacheco, who was already kayaking with me, and Osvaldo Trejos, who was kayaking with the competition, but we were the only ones. So I said, hey, guys, come. We're going to go compete. And the Savage River, I've been there, and it's great. And I also competed in the downriver. That was another funny story. I've never been in a downriver. I was foggy and cold and the whole thing. But anyway, So we competed in 1989, and I said, "Hey, we just can't be last. There's these guys from Brazil coming, and I've never seen him, so we gotta beat them." And sure enough, we accomplished our mission. We beat the Brazilians. Later on, the Brazilians became very, very strong, and they had a lot of money for their federation, and they even made junior world champions and stuff. But anyway, that's how we started in kayaking and letting people know about the rivers. And that's when we started promoting Angostura and the Reventa Zone as a training ground, because Angostura was a perfect rapid for slalom training. And the season, January, February was perfect for them because it was their winter.
Mm-hmm.
And what was amazing is, first we had the American team come, and then we had the Italians, and then the Germans and the Canadians. And boy, by the 1995, I mean, it was going crazy. But what was great about Angostura, when I first brought the first team from United States, I'm going like, we got to build a trail through the jungle. How are we going to get the boats back up? And, because I'd seen all these systems on the Savage about bringing the boats back and the gates and all this. And I was really, really concerned. We didn't have any money. We didn't have any know-how. And they're putting up gates with bamboo poles and branches, and they're paddling up the river, and they're catching eddies and going up the rapid all the way to the top, all the way to Upper Gordo, which was kind of the last rapid that we hit before Angostura. And they're going up river, and I'm going, what the heck? What are they doing? They were so good. They were so fast. It was amazing. And so having all those teams there, I mean, it changed the life for any kayaker in that age. Miti talked about it, and anybody that lived in that age remembers. I mean, we ended up going to the Olympics in 1992 with Miti, Garel, Alejo, Ferdinand, Stainford, and Hilda. Thanks to all that influx of competitors, something we lost in 1998 because of the dam on the Angostura.
Well, what was it? I mean, when the dam got built there originally, did the government not think about? Were they just trying? I mean, what was it that brought that in? You had just this new tourism thing happening. How did that happen?
Well, the books. So there was a project in Angostura, and then there was another project that was called Guayabo 1 and 2, and Siquirres 1 and 2. And Angostura was independent, and Guayabo 1 and 2 was 2 more dams on the Reventa Zone, and Siquirres 1 and 2 was 2 more dams on the Pacuare. So we had a choice. Either we fight against 4 dams or 1. And Angostura was kind of next, and we said, no, we got to stop the dam on the Pacuare. So we focused our energy on defending the Pacuare. We knew we couldn't fight for both, especially since Reventa Zone, having a dam in Angostura was going to flood a bunch of sugarcane. We're having a dam on Dos Montañas was going to flood primary rainforest. So our issue was, do we fight for our commercial rights? Do we fight for the rafting on the Reventa Zone, or do we fight for the environment on the Pacuare? And our economic numbers for rafting on the Reventa Zone weren't that big then, so we couldn't really justify, hey, we're making, $500 a month here. It wasn't justifiable. So we decided to focus on Pacuare, which was best, because it was a very, very bad project. And so that's where we started our activism in 1990. We camped on Dos Montañas Canyon. My brother and David Rosenberg and Lars Christensen, they went down and camped at Dos Montañas the day before they were going to dynamite the canyon. And so they woke up there Monday morning so that ISE wouldn't dynamite the canyon. And we made a lot of noise, and we were able to get ISE to make the first ever environmental impact study, and that's what saved the Pacuare. I mean, there were more issues after that, but that's the reason we weren't able to fight against Angostura.
Well, gosh, well, thank you so much for doing that. I can't imagine what it'd be so different if the Pacuare wasn't there. Oh wow, it's wow.
I can imagine.
And I don't think, I mean, a lot of people that are probably watching have been down the Pacuare River. I mean, the Pacuare River has, I think, Walter, I think it's 52 rapids that are class 3 or class 4 in a row. I mean, and probably more than that. I mean, it's just this incredible stretch of river that if you're into doing rivers ever, this is, I don't know, it's probably one of the top 5 rivers in the world for commercial floating easy. Wouldn't you? I mean, you've done a lot more than I ever have. I'll be able to do in my lifetime, Rafa. I mean, how would you compare or explain the Pacuare River to somebody that's?
It's the Pacuare River is definitely one of the top class 3, 4 remote rivers in the world. Especially, being in the rainforest and having the quality of water it has, not only quality of water, but quality of rapids. Then we have the upper section, the upper Pacuare, which is great. But I always said it was one of the best rivers in the world. And when I said that, I challenged myself, and I even brought a world championship in 1991 to Costa Rica. And basically had the whole world. I'll tell a little bit about the history of that. But I had the whole world there, and nobody said, "No, you're a liar." Nobody did.
So
thing 98, and I've always said it again. And even in 2011, we had a world rafting championship. I said Pacuare River is one of the best in the world, and nobody said no. So it's true, and just the quality of everything. Definitely, and for commercial rafting, for people who go down the Pacuare, being able to stay at the lodges that are along the river, or even camping, or before it used to be camping, we used to do a 2-night for camping. Then now there's lodges, but it's probably one of the best overnight trips ever, especially if you stay at some of the lodges with trails. Some have zip lines, Tarzan swing. Just staying there in the rainforest, and the noise and the sound, and just staying on the Pacuare, it's magic. It's total magic. And then going in the first is class 3, and then the next day you have pretty much the class 4 section. You go into the canyon. You go into upper Huacas, which is fairly nice and long and scary, but it prepares you to the waterfall, which is beautiful, and then you get to lower Huacas that you gotta be pretty much ready for. It's good class 4. By then people are really, paddling together,
right,
and really into, the guides are really knowing the people. And so it's really, the timing of the rapids are amazing. And then the canyon opens up and it closes again. And you end up with Dos Montañas, which is a magical place. And even after that, there's still another, 10 rapids. So it's definitely one of the best. It's about 19 kilometers, 12 miles, whatever, something like that. You can do it in one day. You can do overnight, but I definitely recommend staying overnight and just getting that rainforest nature therapy.
Well, and this isn't meant to be like a sales pitch for anybody, but I mean, I got to hear the story. So there are several eco lodges along the river, some accessible by vehicle, some of them. So you have Rios Tropicales Lodge, but you can't even drive a truck there. So I mean, how in the world did you decide to put it? Let's go build a hotel on the other side of the river where you can't even drive a truck to. How did that come about?
Well, that was pretty crazy. Even when I worked for Michael back in '83, he was able to purchase the first property that Aníbal Obando has, which was the only place we could camp. It was the only flat along the river where we could camp, and that was a property that was owned by Aníbal Obando, and that's where we would camp. And when I started Rios Tropicales, I would camp there because it was the only place to camp. And I got kicked out by Michael. Fernando and Osvaldo, their guys, they came over and said, Rafa, Michael wants you to get out of his camp. And so we already set up tents and everything. And we had kayakers with us. And the trip leader goes like, it's okay, Rafa, let's move. Let's not get into a fight. I said, well, I think I saw a property downriver that had a little beach. I saw it last time we went down the river. We used to go down the river only twice a month. And so we went down, and sure enough, there's a beach. And we stayed there, and it happened to be also Aníbal Obando's property. And so we started staying there and becoming very good friends with them. And they had cattle and pineapples and beans and rice and everything. And they would take care of the property, and they would, we paid 1,000 colones back then for when we stayed. And in 1990, I had a manager who said, well, why don't you buy the property from them, and maybe they'll give you a good price and you can hire them to take care of your property. And here's a family with 15 kids. And one was my lady, Walter's wife.
My wife.
She was 4 years old back then. But so we had, Johnny and Jimmy and Roy and Albert and Walter and David and Michael and all the girls. So I ended up buying the property from them and hiring them to take care of it. And then Johnny started becoming a guide. He used to swim down on the river with us. And then Jimmy became a guide. But and Aníbal, their father, he said, well, let's get the Indian Garcia, our neighbor, to build us a hut, so you don't have to bring those big tarps. And so that's how we built our first hut. So we didn't have to bring a tarp anymore. And then after a trip I did in Indonesia, I got this idea of these crazy huts that I stayed in. And so we built a second hut and turned it into a 6-bedroom hut. So we didn't have to bring tents anymore. Then we built an outhouse because we used to go to the bathroom with a shovel and toilet paper, and you dig a hole 6 inches tall, and you did your thing, and it biodegraded in a week. But so that's how it got developed, little by little. Then before I knew it, Aníbal was cutting down we had fallen wood, and he was cutting this tree, lumbering it, and he built this hut with 8 rooms and doors. And so, wow, it just kept on happening, and we had to bring less stuff on our river, and we actually didn't have to stay a second night on the river. So we were able to stay there, and it just started growing, and we actually started reforesting what they had deforested. So Albert and Roy and those kids, they started collecting seeds, and we reforested what they had deforested. So it started this whole eco movement in the area of El Tigre. And then the neighbor down below said, hey, who's this crazy guy who's buying useless land? And I said, yeah, it's me. And I ended up buying another chunk downriver, which was about 150, 100, almost 200 acres of rainforest. I said, hey, rainforest is being cut down so fast, and I'm able to buy that. We were barely able to buy it, but what a great privilege to be able to have my own rainforest so that my kids can see it, because it was being destroyed in Costa Rica in the 80s and 90s. It was being destroyed big time. So we purchased that land, and then we purchased another one, and then across the river. So it's a longer story with the conservation efforts, but now we're protecting about 2,000 acres of rainforest. Right. And some of it that's pasture we're regenerating, and we've stopped poaching, we've stopped illegal logging, and we're seeing all kinds of biodiversity. So the Pacuare model and the whitewater rafting model, out of Turrialba, on the Pacuare especially, because the Reventason, we lost it by dams. But on the Pacuare, it's just a great model regeneration. I mean, thanks to the tourism, it has been saved and it has been recuperated.
That's amazing. That's so cool. So
Welcome.
speaking of the conservation, so I mean, if you look at the history, me as an American, I mean, my first time down there was a couple of years ago, and I always thought of Costa Rica as a very green type of country that was focused on conservation, and you got to see that, and that was, I think that's one of the reasons Americans actually really put Costa Rica as such a high. We just look really positively a lot, at Costa Rica. Your water, I think, for me, drinking the water, having it be clean, and not knowing I'm not going to get sick is such a big deal. And I think I've spent time in South America and other places, and when you know you could get sick for months and months and months from bad water, it just makes you not really want to go there on a vacation. It's not the kind of souvenir we want to bring home, right? And so I just think it's been really interesting to see as I've been more involved in bringing tourists down to Costa Rica, how people care so much about clean water and clean drinking water and good facilities that it's been really positive to see Costa Rica focus on that. And I mean, has that always been the case? I mean, was there a time 30, 40 years ago that it was not clean water, or how did that happen?
It, it was better. It was better, and it's always been great. And yeah, I mean, that to me, I mean, drinking water out of the faucet in my house, I mean, it's like, whoa, that's the best. And then I go everywhere else and do the same thing and get sick. But it was better. Costa Rica's been a leader in water quality, and then even back then, electricity and telephone. ISE was way ahead in the 80s. They had electricity everywhere. They had telephones everywhere, public phones. It was difficult to have a landline, but clean water was there as well. So, and then the development of Costa Rica into the ecotourism. Back then it was everybody was kind of starting their own way, but the whole ecotourism turned into sustainability. It's been very positive for Costa Rica. I mean, now you have so many opportunities to go to so many different places in Costa Rica with great small lodges that are very responsible. There got to be a time there in the late 90s, 2000, I guess. There was a lot of greenwashing as well, but that's pretty much under control. Now everybody that says they do what they do, they actually do it. So I think Costa Rica is just a great destination. Pacuare for me is definitely something you have to do for 2 or 3 days. And then if you stay in the Turrialba area, you have you have volcano, you have hiking, you have other rivers, you have other activities, and then everything else. I mean, you have whoa, Caribbean and Fortuna and Pacific and Gulf of Nicoya, Gulf of Dulce. And for us that are into paddling, we paddle into Tortuguero, which is amazing wildlife. We used to sea kayak back in '89. We had sea kayaking trips on Gulf of Nicoya. We would do 7, 8 day trips on the Nicoya. Now there's sea kayaking in Gulf of Dulce. You guys with the stand-up paddle boards, you can go anywhere on beaches and class 1 and 2 rivers. Cotopaxi River, full of wildlife. So I think Costa Rica is just so blessed with their conservation efforts and the amount of wildlife, and like you said, just the safety. Feeling safe, feeling safe with the water. If you go with an outfitter, you're so much safer just because the guy knows where to take you, where to go. To me, that was key. That was key, to running our own trips with our own drivers, with our own guides, rather than having people on their own, which is fine as well in Costa Rica, don't get me wrong. But having an outfitter is so much better because our guides are so well made, so well educated, and they'll take people to the right places and have the right fun and, go to the right festival in the right town and the whole thing. So I really recommend people now with what's happening with the corona and the future in Costa Rica, Rica, it's good. Our numbers are good. Our health system is proven to be very, very good. So that's something people are going to be interested in. Our protocols is the first thing the government started doing. There's protocols now for everything, for everything, for all kind of activity in tourism. There's protocol, and everybody's into it. Everybody's ready. All the guides are so eager to get back on the field. I think Costa Rica should be a destination that should be one of the top priorities in the American market. It's not far away. Health system is good. There's a lot of different outfitters with different products, different prices. So I'd invite anybody to come down as soon as you can. As soon as they open our borders, our guides need you.
One other thing for me as I've been down there, first couple times, I love how the camaraderie on the river and you've got all these different companies and you think, oh, they're competing with each other, but the guides people are just friendly down there in general. I think Costa Rica probably has some of the friendliest, happiest people in the world. But even on the river, you get this feeling that everybody's got everybody's back. It doesn't matter what company you're with. If there was a problem, they're going to pitch in and they're going to help you. It's not out to get the other guy, which I've really been impressed with. There's just this brotherhood on the river, and even with the other, I've just seen it across the board. Whether it's the hotels, whether it's whatever the activity is I've done, it's such a cool place to visit and see that camaraderie out there, the brotherhood.
You know what, Jason? I feel like most of this comes from the Caballeros that we're talking now, like Rafa, like Niti, and Sava, all those guys who were at the beginning. Although then that's what we're doing. We're copying that. We're copying that. We're customer service. All this safety. Even yesterday we were talking about back to basics. Back to those basic rules, basic things that make a huge difference on the water.
Yeah.
I'm really happy you mentioned that because it's true, and Michael Kay did a really great job of setting the standards. And then when Rios Tropicales came in, we were competing to see who was the best and who was the safest and who had the best service. And so we were competing in a way, and the Pacuare was so remote that we would tell our guides to say, on the river, you guys are friends. You guys will need each other. Let Michael and me, fight for market. But so it started this great camaraderie, especially the Pacuare, because of its remoteness. I mean, an accident back then was no joke. I mean, there was no communication, so we had to take care of ourselves. We still kind of do. So, but that you mentioned is really true because of the Pacuare. And then it got to be a time, I can remember the years, where we lost all this, and now it's good for me to hear that we're recuperating all this, that people are looking back at people like Miti and Sabanera and even Tori, a lot of people that have worked for many years, the Obando family, they have really high standards, and now people are going like, we want to be like them. And now with this whole Corona and being home and being a guide, I think it's a good place to, for the guides to think about themselves, to think about how professional they need to be. And it's good that this topic comes up every once in a while. But professionalism, be professional, have your right equipment, have the right attitude, have passion for what you do. And that'll keep those guides working. The guides that are not passionate, they're not professional, they're just gonna go away. There's not gonna be a lot of work for a lot of guides anymore. And something else I'd like to encourage the guides to do is to not just be a guide, to think about other things that you can do. Some of you guys have been carpenters, or some of you guys have been farmers, or you grew up in something rural, different, or you may want to be an engineer, or you may want to study like Xiao is studying and Meet is studying, because all of a sudden tourism goes down the drain and you need to keep on living. So I encourage guides to become better persons, to think about their future. We used to not think about our future, you know. We used to think about having a fun on the river, and all of a sudden you get married and have kids and gotta send them to school and gotta feed them, and all of a sudden you're 40 and then you're 45 and you're still working on the river, and then you have COVID and you have nothing else but guiding. And so I encourage people to learn other traits and think about the future. I think it's a good opportunity for that.
What and
See,
So anyway,
well, speaking of the training and just how the camaraderie kind of I've seen exist on the river, everybody's waving at each other and happy. But I think that actually for the American tourist, that adds to the experience when they see the guides are friends with the competitors. You just makes your whole experience be more positive, and the way the internet is now with the reviews and with the testimonials and the all the Google stars and Facebook reviews, people when they're shopping for where they want to go on vacation, it's across the board. The more positive reviews every single company in Costa Rica gets, the better chance it is that person's going to decide I'm going to go to Costa Rica on my trip instead of going wherever else it might be. And so I think it's really something as a whole country of all the guides, however you treat your clients, it's going to rub off and it's going to affect everybody. And if everybody does a good job, there's going to be more business and more prosperity for everybody down there.
I see Fernando saying there that when we were buying property, they had these incentives for people to cut the forest and plant eucalyptus trees, and that's the way reforestation got. If you cut down the forest and plant the eucalyptus, you got an incentive, and luckily we were able to stop that and change that part. But Jason, I don't know, maybe we can get into some history. There's some great history about rafting in the world, and Costa Rica has been a leader in that. I mean, Costa Rica, in a way, has this leadership and this history that's as important as the service we're offering now. And I think it comes from that history. And so maybe to get into that, how that happened.
Let's go there. Yeah, share.
Yes, we're waiting for it. Actually, Rafa, Johnny saying hi. There's Johnny, Guapo, Ivan, Ana Patricia is online, Joaquin, Alejo Pacheco is listening to you.
All right. Yeah, well, Alejo was with me in 1989. We got this invitation, and back then, I was already with the Kayak Federation. So you get all these invitations to come and compete in Hungary and this and that, but it was just an invitation to come and compete. You had to pay for your ticket and your food and everything. Mm-hmm. But then we get this invitation from these guys from California who we knew, and they say, hey. We're gonna run this project paid by the Soviet Peace Fund. Show up in Moscow, certain date, and everything else is on us. And we're going like, whoa, man! They're inviting us to go to Siberia to this project rafting championship or festival, Chuya Festival.
Sure, yeah.
And back then, in '89, Nicaragua was communist, and they had Russia, the Soviet Union. Aeroflot was flying into Managua, and so we called Aeroflot, and we got $500 tickets to go from Managua to Moscow. And so we got a team together, and Álvaro Elizondo, who was my first guide, Álvaro Elizondo and Roberto Fernandez were my first two guides out of Turrialba. We used to go on the Sarapiquí back then. That's another story. Anyway, I invited Álvaro. He was still working with me, and Alejo Pacheco was working, and Tori, Victorino Ursola, who still works for me, he was already a guide. And then Jimmy Nixon, my partner from El Salvador, he said, I gotta go see the Soviet Union. I mean, everybody's talking about communism and this and that. We need to go see this. And then Álvaro González, who was my partner in the first store that we brought to Costa Rica for equipment. We brought the first technical equipment store, Centro de Aventura. That's another big story on how we got equipment into Costa Rica. But anyway, that was the team. We went. We got a coaster and went to Managua. Ended up in Moscow. Ended up traveling from Moscow to Barnaul. It's like flying from L.A. to New York. It was whatever 10-hour flight, and we met with the whole world except the Soviets. We still not met the Soviets, except for our hosts. You know, they're taking us to these palaces and giving us great food and treating us like kings. And then we get on these buses and they all ask for our passports because we're going somewhere. And, you know, we gave our passports out and go on a bus in the middle of Moscow. We board a plane to Barnaul, 8 hours, the whole world. But what happens? The Mexicans bring out the tequila, the Peruvians bring out the pisco, we bring out the guaro. It was the biggest party in the world. We get to Barnaul, we still had to go to Gorno Altais by bus, and from Gorno Altais to Chuya by bus. It took us about 3 days to get there. And we get to the Chuya River, and it was May 1989. There was still snow on the banks of the river. And these guys are there waiting for us, and this whole world just clashed. The Soviets were the real human beings. They were running these huge rivers with whatever they could. They would inflate stuff with whatever they could. They would build rafts and paddles, and they would get helmets from hockey. They would do things amazingly, and they would run rivers. And then we come in, and the French got this pink wetsuits, and we have these green dry suits, and the Africans, everybody, the whole world just clashed. This camaraderie happened, and just the world opened. I mean, we met our best British friends, Canadians, Peruvians. Everybody met everybody, and we were all one in the river. It was just amazing, and that's the American guy from Nantahala Outdoor Center, Payson Kennedy, said we gotta replicate this. We gotta continue this, and so he invited us to come on the Nantahala in 1990. And we had two teams there. We had two teams. Sabanera came, Patricio Olsenbach, Dondi, Mitty came. Mitty was starting to kayak. He was our kayaker, one of the teams. And Sabanera and Fernando Esquivel had one team. Alejo Pacheco, Tori was there. So we had two teams in Angela. And Fernando's going like, "Hey, Rafa, why don't you ask him to do this in Costa Rica?" I said, "You're crazy. You can't do this in Costa Rica." I said, "Yeah, come on. You're good friends with Jib and Donnie. Go ask him." And I said, "Jib, what do you think if we do this in Costa Rica?" I said, "Yeah, sure."
Wow.
So 1991, we got this field, sugarcane field in Turrialba by Mario Rojas. He let us cut down his, he was cutting it down anyway. Sugarcane field. We built the camp. We had 400 people. We had a bus of 60 Russians come in. That was 1991 when they were destroying all their statues back in Moscow, Stalin and Leningrad and all those. It was crazy.
Rafa, that camp was by Casa Turiri, right? That beach.
Yeah. Yeah, that beach right before you came, it was called Playa Hermosa, and we used to have lunch there, and then we would go down to Gordo de Abajo, the final section. So yeah, I had some great stories about that place, and we're gonna run out of time. So 1991 was Costa Rica. We ended up on the Pacuare. We did a silent protest at Dos Montañas. That photo that you have on the Facebook is from Dos Montañas. We all stopped there, 400 people at Dos Montañas, just showing the world that we didn't want a dam there. And that was classic photo. And then 92 was the Olympics. So 93 was the next championship, and it was in Turkey. And that Project RAF was supposed to be in Norway. And 2 months before, it got canceled. And we ended up in Turkey on the Chorro River. And we had a team as well there. We had Rolando Servilla came on that one, Hilbert Dondi, Alvaro Gonzalez, Alvaro Pacheco, Douglas McCormick came to Turkey. And at that time, Project RAF was going to finish. So Camel, the people from Camel Challenge were already running something in South Africa. And so they came there and they did a presentation. I remember 94, this is what happened. In 94, we were invited to Italy to a world championship in Val d'Aosta. We had Johnny Ovando came to that one, Douglas McCormick. and and it was so crazy. The rules changed along the way. Everybody had different boats, short boats, long boats, 4 people boats, 6 people boats. There were no rules, no rules whatsoever. So going like, whoa, this is going crazy. We gotta do something about it. And just talking with different friends from around the world. In 1997, we met in Augsburg, Germany, and we had the guys from Camel Challenge from South Africa, a guy from Croatia, a guy from Norway, a guy from Scotland, the German guy, myself, Glenn Luman from Sotar, and we said let's start in our international federation. I said, well, you be president, I'll be vice president, you'll be secretary. Let's get this going. We need to do race rules. So that's how we started in 1997, the International Rafting Federation. And 1998, we convinced Camel to get out of Zambezi and come to Costa Rica. We convinced them because of the Class 5 Peralta section. They wanted Class 5. And we're going like, yeah, really? Sure? They said, yeah, that's what we want. We got helicopters. And so Rios Tropicales was a safety team. Felipe Perez was the leader of the safety team. So, yeah, 1998 was Camel. And it was the first world official IRF championship. Then 99, we went to the Orange River in Namibia, the border between Namibia and South Africa. And while we were sitting around a campfire, people from all over the world, all guides, were going like, we should get this guide certification thing going because we're the top people in the world and we know all the different styles. And so we started the raft guiding certification there. Well, Steve Nong Chong from Ecuador and Australia started it. And so that's another long story about the development of IRF, and we became, things changed right about then. And the reason I wanted to come to this is the festivals used to be a lot of fun, and we would just party and paddle and have a great time. And we actually had, we had Oscar Arias doing a speech at the camp talking about disarmament. He had just won the Nobel Peace Prize. So it was great. It was a great party. And but then when the IRF started, things started getting really competitive, and things really changed. People were starting to train, and people are, and so it was training. It was not more, we can have fun, but we got to take care of ourselves if we want to be world champions. And right now, because even that movement got a little shaky there for a while. Right now, I'm really happy to see kids, and I'm really happy to see Walter and Arnaldo and you guys getting kids out paddling in junior teams because and with good ethics, good mind, because we kind of lost it there for a while. But Costa Rica has always been in all of these championships. We ended up doing a world championship here in 2011, which was the first ever world championship carbon neutral. And it's now being used as a model to follow in GAIFs, which is the General Assembly of International Sports Federations. We're being looked at very, very strongly because of that, carbon neutrality. And so now we're off. We were in Australia last year on the Tully River, which was the twin of the Pacuare. Somebody has said, you gotta come and see the Tully. It's very similar to the Pacuare, and sure enough, it was. So that's pretty much the story or the history of competitive rafting in the world.
Rafa, just to kind of thinking about all of these international experiences, and you've been involved in all of this, and the conservation and the carbon neutral has been really important. I know we've talked on some of these other interviews with some of these original caballeros about the Reventazón, and you mentioned earlier you had to pick between the Pecuare and saving the Reventazón. So, I mean, what's the future of that? I mean, is Costa Rica coming around that, in 10 years or 30 years or 50 years, is there any chance that that river could be recovered and used again and be an example for the world?
The Reventa song is a classic. It was Turrialba's gem, and it got lost because of Angostura, and the ICE really took the Turrialba population for a ride. But when we showed up, Cachi was already there. It was built in the early 60s. And Cachi is probably producing at 25%, if too much. So I think Cachi needs to be destroyed. And, Cachi needs to be destroyed. And after Cachi gets destroyed, Angostura needs to be destroyed. And right now, the people from Turrialba, they should not allow the dam on the Bonilla. There's a project for next year on the Bonilla, and there's already opposition for that. I'm sure
Stop
Mario
already.
Troy and other people know it. Yeah, from
I
Solis.
think you're already.
I know Carlos Manuel was going to stop it, but if that dam gets stopped, it's just a matter of tearing down Cachi, La Joya, Angostura, and then Reventason, Florida is going to take a little longer. But I would encourage the new generation to be looking at that, because that's the future of dams. Destroy them, tear them down. They become obsolete. They get too much sediment. They're not producing anything, and recover your river. I mean, it's going to be very difficult for it to be the same, but you haven't lost the gradient and the water flow. So I'd say, your kids and Miti's grandchildren and my son and everybody's kids start working on it. Next 40 years, have a Reventa zone again, maybe 25. I think it's the gem. It's the gem of it. I mean, Pacuare is Pacuare, but the Reventa zone that Whitewater had was pretty amazing, and it's a Reventa zone. It has history. It's where the colonists came up the river, then the railroad, and there's a lot of history about Reventa zone. It's really
Peralta.
sad to see it. Yeah, Peralta, and it's just too sad to see it destroyed. So yeah, recover it.
And I just throwing in kind of the gringo perspective, I've been to, there's so many cool areas in Costa Rica. You've got the Fortuna and, several areas that have been built into tourist areas now. And I look at Turrialba, and when you go there, I see so much opportunity that is just, if you added another river, you really could bring tourists. If you had the Pacuare and you've got the Pequibaye, and you could have tourists come there for 4 or 5 days with the mountain biking, the hiking, the volcano. I think Turrialba is really, I don't think Turrialba realizes how amazing it could be. If they had just a little bit more, that river, I think, would change it where you could build. I don't know that I don't want to see it build too many hotels because it's so special right now. But
well, that's what's necessary. Good infrastructure is what's necessary, and somebody with the guts to build the right hotel with the right amount of beds. That's what's lacking in Turrialba.
But I think the hard part is there's not enough. There's really cool things to do for 1 or 2 days. But then, I can go to Arnal, or I can go somewhere else that's got more beds. And so Turrialba's losing all of these tourists that would come for many. I could just see Turrialba being the place that's kind of the eco-friendly, let's do it right. And if you tore down the dams, I think it would actually create so much buzz in the international magazines and news stations that you could get several hotels there now, because people would want to come and see it. They'd want to be part of it.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with you.
So I guess so. Getting involved, you've seen other places in the world pull dams down, and you've known people. What does it take to convince a government, or at least show a government, that the tourism numbers? Because I know that if I was at a government position or with ICE, I'm probably like, well, we're making all this money from the power, so. Is there more money in tourism? They just don't realize it?
No, it's pretty tough. I mean, their numbers are so big that our numbers are not gonna. It's a big debate. The only reason we can win is that we can run tourism forever, where their dams are gonna only last about 40 years. I've seen dams destroyed in California, and I think it's the trend that's gonna happen. I mean, if the dams are full sediment and they're not producing, might as well make an environmental statement out of
Hmm.
them. It's a tough fight, Jason. It's a tough one. I mean, it takes leadership, it takes activism, it takes money, it takes we need lawyers, and there needs to be leadership. I'm hoping the future generations take over. I think I've done my deed. I think we've created a good semillero, and Turrialba, I think, is the right place to be for that. So yeah, it's good incentive for the future generations too.
Well, I've,
I
I've
think
been I've been a marketing guy my whole life, and I just think, man, if you tore down, and if Costa Rica, from a public relations or PR marketing standpoint, wanted to say, hey, we're focused on developing and keeping being green and friendly, we're going to do this because it's going to promote the recovery of the environment. You guys would get so much free advertising that it would just trickle into the whole country.
Yeah. Can you
So
imagine Rafa having Puerto Angostura back?
well, yeah, I think we lost some rocks and sediment and what have you, but I mean, history is history. I think we lived it. We gotta see what's ahead. We did have the right minister of environment who's gonna be gone, which is too bad. So it's gonna depend on who leads the environmental issues in the government in the future. Hopefully, we don't get a. There was an article in the paper today talking about how Costa Rica is not gonna have any more hydro and they're gonna go geothermal, but I'm not sure how long that can be sustained. So yeah, dams is not a good thing. And marketing wise, yes, it would be great. It would be a great environmental statement. I think Costa Rica has made several, with different laws about poaching and animals and just other environmental laws and incentives. So we got a good leadership. I think we need to keep going in that area. I think the guides need to get a little more involved in all that. I think all the river companies need to get more involved with river cleanups, water quality, conservation issues, community issues. I mean, be good to your communities, be good to communities along the river. And that's in all Costa Rica. I mean, be responsible for what you do, be responsible with your communities. And that goes for people in Sarapiquí and La Fortuna and Quepos and everywhere. And be responsible with your tourists. I mean, we've got to take care of them. We got to take a lot of good care of them. We got to be safe. We got to be smart. We got to be happy about what we do and just be smart.
and
Smart.
just
Be good.
I know we're way out of time. This has been really fun, and I so appreciate you taking time. Walter, we definitely need to do this again. I can tell there's so many more stories that we haven't even we've cracked a little bit of this open. But Rafa, kind of as a closing thing, you've been in the tourism industry for as long as almost anybody down in Costa Rica. What advice would you have for if you were talking to an American, a gringo that's trying to decide to come to Costa Rica? What would you tell them, and how would you motivate them to come to Costa Rica on a vacation? What do you tell them?
Rafa, before you say it, let me tell you, there is a big party here in the chat. All I can see Johnny and
There's 60 people watching right now, Rafa. You have 60 people live.
So much,
Wow.
and it's been so much fun. Even Jose Aníbal is there, Johnny and Fernando. It's super fun. I've been looking at it and then,
All
they're
right.
waiting for you.
All right, all right. If they want another 10 minutes, I'll do it. Well, Jason, I don't know. I've been marketing Costa Rica for so long, and right now we're back to the zero season, and so I'm remembering how we used to go to uh, to the trade shows, and we would first sell, Costa Rica and first Central America. Everybody go, oh, Puerto Rico. No, 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 it's Costa Rica. Oh, where is Costa Rica? Central America, between Mexico and Panama. Oh, Panama, there's a war there. No, 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 but it's okay. Costa Rica doesn't have an army, and north is Nicaragua. Oh, but there's a war going on there. No, yeah, 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 but Costa Rica is an island of peace. They call it Switzerland of Central America. We have no army. And you go into this whole thing and you only have 5 minutes left, and then you get to sell your whitewater rafting trip. So I think we're back at the same thing. We got to re-educate people about what Costa Rica is. We gotta say, why would you go to, I don't want to talk about other countries. There's some other great leaders, but we got to convince them again about why Costa Rica. Good health system, good guides, um, great rivers, warm water. Yeah, and like I say, right now the health system, the protocols that we're gonna follow. Um, it's there's a lot. There's our history. There's ecological awareness. There's sustainability practices. Everybody's into this whole COVID came because of us. Us destroying the world. And Costa Rica is a good model to follow of regeneration. Regeneration has to do with spirituality. It has to do with communities. It has to do with environment. It has to do with biodiversity. And we can talk about that. We can show it to them. Or to get this great wildlife, we can go down to Pacuare and see sunburns. We can go to La Fortuna, and I mean everywhere we go. It's a model of regeneration, a model of conservation. I think that's what people in the United States should be more interested in. I think they should be a lot more interested in people that have done something good for the environment, and not go to a place where it got deforested and we're in a desert and they build pyramids. No, we're in a rainforest that got recovered and we're taking care of it, and we got biodiversity, and we're gonna listen to this, and we're gonna hike, and we're gonna see monkeys, and we're gonna see iguanas and alligators and whatever. So I'd say we already have a great story to tell. It's just and I think we gotta focus on the conservation, the regeneration, and the whole history of Costa Rica's ecological standards.
I agree with you. Well, Rafa, thank you so much. Gosh, this has been so fun. Definitely, we want to do this again. I want to get your stories of the river, and I can only imagine the number of like funny and scary swims, and we'll save that for like a whole nother one. But or funny tourism.
Get some more going. There's a lot of other Caballeros del Rio in Costa Rica. Walter knows them. I'll send some his way that can tell some stories, and keep your program going. I really thank you for letting me pitch in before it was too late. Everybody's told the truth so far.
Well, thank you, and thank you everyone for watching. We will definitely continue doing this. We will, for sure, Rafa, we're going to have you back. I've got a whole other list of questions, but I know I've been told that 45 minutes is like the perfect amount, and we've gone way over that. So we will be back. Thank you, everybody. Pura vida, and we will talk to you guys later.
70 followers. Thank you.
Yeah.